up YouTube, a broken truck here. First video on YouTube, I'm gonna go ahead and lift my 2002 Volkswagen Jetta that I have here. TDI diesel. It used to be an automatic car. I 5-speed swapped it with my 2001 donor. It used to be a 5-speed. As well, pulled the motor and transmission out of it. Grenaded the transmission in this car once, back when I daily drove it. And in 2002, I bought it for $500 with the blown motor, the timing belt snapped, destroyed lifters, dropped the lifter and the valve. It was all torn up. So I pulled the motor out of it, pulled the automatic 01M transmission out of it, and manual swapped it. Car is actually a big upgrade compared to the red one. Red one only had cloth seats and they wasn't heated or anything like that. No working AC. This one's got working AC. Leather heated seats. But today we're going to be doing the lift kit on it. I had the red car lifted at one point, and it's time for this one to be lifted up, as I don't have enough clearance and I scrape on getting into my driveway and on my driveway getting out onto the public roads. I will show you guys these roads. They're not so good. Ohio, out here in my county, doesn't take care of the roads. We're on a public drive, or a private access drive, and everyone here has to take care of their section of the road, and no one takes care of their section of the road, and we are at the dead end. So getting this thing in and out, even though with our dump truck back there, you might have seen it in the background, the old Ford with the Caterpillar 3406B in it and the Eaton 13-speed. That truck, we put some gravel down on the road, and it's improved the road a lot. You can probably see where we've laid the gravel at. But it's still really, really rough. This car, having 160,000 miles on it, is still on factory suspension, I'm sure. And the other car that I had, the red one, I think was still on factory suspension, and it was at 320,000 miles. This is getting to be the worst part right about here. It was a lot worse back in the past. This year we've cleaned it up a lot, but it's pretty rough there. Got a few scrapes in my oil pan actually from it. I've had my whole motor and transmission out, and I had it painted all Detroit Alpine green. I'm a Detroit fan, but this isn't a little Detroit, it's a little Volkswagen. But I wanted to keep track of the oil leaks and anything that happened to the car, as I try to keep close views on everything in the car mechanically and make sure it's up top notch. Cars has 2.280 injectors in it. It's tuned by Technotronics. Stage 4 XTD clutch at the moment. See how long that lasts. I still got to get a bigger turbo, intercooler, map sensor, handful of other things. Gotta find new tires for the lift once I lift it. So that way it will clear up that fender gap. The red car had some pretty decent fender gap, you guys will see on this car. That's about the worst part coming back. It's a little worse coming back down than it is coming out. If I don't drive coming out of my driveway right, my hitch will actually scrape on my driveway there with the gravel we laid there in the yard. Did that earlier this summer. Still got some other work I gotta do to this thing. I gotta put a glove box in from the red car in it. And a handful of other things. And this thing will be top notch compared to the red car. That used to be the old daily with the red car. And I actually have another TDI that I have parts as a parts car. But I have to clear out some room in the shop so we can get this pulled in. And we'll be back. I'm gonna go ahead and pop these tires off real quick up front and on the rear. That loud buzzing is that light up there, if you guys are wondering. Old lights. Our air compressor's down at the moment, so let's hope this little DeWalt can get it done. Try and do this all one-handed almost. Might need to get the breaker bar out. These haven't been off in a minute. Yep, breaker bar it is. Have to lower it back down. We'll be back when the wheels are off. Alright, and we're back with the wheels off. This is what the lift kit consists of. You have to get these done at a shop, or if you have a strut spring compressor, you're able to do these, but it's factory Volkswagen struts. And if I remember correctly, it's Wrangler. Jeep Wrangler springs for the front and Cherokee springs for the rear. Early 2000s Cherokees. I think it's like 2010 Wrangler springs. and the Cherokee's is early 2000s. The shocks are from an early 2000s F-150 Ford. And then you take your strut top, or your shock tops from your Volkswagen shocks that are up in here. You'll take them off and you'll bolt them up to the Ford shocks. So, starting off, let me grab the light over here. Now, you gotta take the bottom of your strut off. It's that bolt right there that I kind of can't point to. Right there. And over here. And that is a size 18. You want to grab yourself an impact and probably a wrench. I have no real way of setting my camera up so you guys can see, but that bolt will spin when you hit it with the impact. Where's that? There it is. So you want to put the impact on one side and hit it with the wrench, or hold it with the wrench on the other. Be right back when that's out. Alright, now that that bolt is out, we can smack the upper control arm off the strut, or the hub, or whatever you want to call it, spindle. But first you want to pull off all of your connections for brakes, ABS, whatever you have. And just little rubber grommets. I'll just pull right out. I recommend, if you're going to do this Jeep spring lift, that you upgrade, or not necessarily upgrade, but buy brand new struts so you don't have to deal with the old ones. Brake pad wear sensor. It'll come off right there. Torx bit. And then the ABS sensor. Gotta get a little fat head or something in there. Pry that out. Be right back when that's off. Alright, now that them are off, a bit of a pain in the butt to get them off. That was a T20 Torx bit bolt for that. But take the hammer on this part of it, the upper control arm, and get this on out of here. So that way we can get the new strut up and in it. Looking for the mini sledge. I see it. But we're almost there. It's hard to do this one-handed. Once you get to a point, you're gonna have to go up top and undo the top bolt up there on the top side under the hood for the strut. lower the car and we'll get that bolt too next. Now the top of the strut tire, you have a 21. Only take off that bolt. If you take off that one that's under it, the strut will explode and come apart. That is what you need the tool for. The strut is now ready to basically come out. Just have to pry down on the control arm a little bit and pop it out of the top. Go ahead and pop it out real quick. Alright, that strut is out. Now it's pretty much just a reverse of installing the new one in. Might need to take off the sway bar link to get yourself a little bit more leverage. Either one of that bolt or that bolt will do. And then buttoning everything back up. And that's pretty much it for the front. Very little modification needed for it. The rear, you'll need to do a little bit of cutting. I'll go ahead and get this thrown in and show you all the end result. This is the original on the left and the modified on the right. It doesn't look to be that much of a difference, but got that spring is extremely compressed compared to the top on that. Now for the rear, it's relatively simple as well. You gotta undo your shock bolts. I've already done one on this side. Loosen this one on this side. And as soon as you pop this bolt out, it'll actually fall and drop down. So you should, if you got enough play here, you can actually pop that spring out. In my red car, I was able to just pull them down and actually pull the springs out. They was rotted in half. But if you got a fairly good suspension, you might need something to set this down onto, like the jack or a transmission jack like I'm going to use, so you don't shock it down and potentially break your brake lines that are there and over here and run to there. Now once you're done with that and you have the shocks down, springs, just twist whatever way they want to twist if you're having issues with them. They'll come out. Gotta set my phone down for a second. And the springs out. Wasn't that difficult. Now once your shocks and springs are out, these being the old springs and shocks, these are the new ones. You can see the difference. Everyone online says it's about a 4-inch lift, and on the red car, it's about what it was. So the way I like to install these F-150 shocks come with little washers. I'll put one on each side, one there, and then one on this other side. And then install that up in there, in that car. Now, your springs, you're gonna wonder, how the hell do they get in there? Because they barely fit as it is. You're gonna have to pry this down a lot. And if you want to save yourself some time and hassle, you're gonna have to trim a little bit right here and just kind of take it from this flat spot here over. If you want to, you can curve it. That way your shock isn't hitting this right here, because it will hit this and damage your shock. And you'll need to trim a little bit back here for your spring so you don't have spring rattles. That's up to you. You have to do that on both sides. I took it just from this top right here and just kind of went down right there along that line right there. Did the same thing. You have to do it over here as well. And make sure that you're taking your cables or whatever wires you have, a parking brake sensor or anything, will be coming off of here, and you take it off. Because you want this drooping down and sagging. You don't want them up in the original clips, otherwise they'll be taut and you'll break your wires. And there's one of them on both sides for your ABS sensors. You can also take this time as an opportunity to paint your axle. I did that on my red car. And you can use it to change your rear axle bushings, which these are due for, but I'm not going to do it at this time. There is a tool for that, and they have to be installed a certain way. But if I was you, I would do all this at the same time, so you don't have to ever come back to this axle. Go ahead and get these springs and this shocks up there, and when you're putting them shocks in, if you can get a longer shock bolt, something that's like double this length, it will help you actually pull that shock up in so that you can actually compress the spring up in there, because it is a pain in the butt to compress this rear axle. But it's the last step, and then we'll be lifted. We can throw the tires on and see the lifted car. Get this on, I'll be done. Alright, I've got that cut out. All I did was take a little death wheel and zip there, and some vice grips, and bend it until it broke. Did the same there, and nicked the brake line there. I'm just gonna hit that little spray paint. Same thing over here, right there. And that will get rid of any rattles that you have. And when you put your springs in, they got to be rotated the right way. To whereas that coil will bend the spring like that, because you can rotate it and it will kind of have a bend that's a curvature around like that. But if you have the coil so it's pushing it against that and trying to bend that way, it won't work near as well. So you want your coil kind of like on the inside here, and do that for both sides. And that way it pushes the spring back and away from this here. If you have it the other way, it'll actually push it into that and you'll have it rubbing up along that. So make sure you have them rotated so that when it's in, it'll compress out away from the axle. And that should be any of the clearing you need. You might need to trim up this. You can pretty it up with a file if you want. Whatever you want. Now we just gotta pry this down and get it up in. But I'm gonna hit this coat of paint real quick and get it up in there, and then I'll be back and show y'all process of bolting up the shocks. Alright, now the lift is on. Got the back springs in. It's been a few hours. I've had company come in and out multiple times. Bit of a pain, but helps if you get a longer bolt. Same thread size, thread pitch, and everything. You use a longer bolt to pull this up on the other side or this side, and then get the other side, put your regular size bolt in, and then undo the longer bolt and put the regular size bolt in, and you'll be good to go. Looks relatively simple. It is relatively simple. You just gotta make sure your coils are adjusted, and try and get you guys in here. You can see the little bit of clearancing I've had to do there for the shock. Right there. And I did a little bit of clearancing there because this coil will hit it there coming up on both sides. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to make do. As long as this is clearanced good amount, you'll be good. You can see actually previous damage from when I didn't have that side clearanced, and I've had this shock damage before. So clearance this spot here every time, where you'll have crumpled shocks. This is all for the Jeep lift. Again, there's other ways to lift these, being Mark V parts. I guess you can do struts up front, but this is the cheapest, the easiest that I know of, and the fastest. It took me about an hour, 2 hours to do. An hour for the front, an hour for the back. Would have been a lot faster with some help, but my help was busy today. So go ahead and get these wheels thrown back up on, and we'll be back running, and you guys can see the height. It's a little dark out, so I'll have to get some video tomorrow, but I'll just place it in and y'all can see it then, and we'll go down the driveway again. You can see the difference it makes. It's huge. Here we are with the final product. I'll lift it up. Brings it up a lot nicer. Keeps my hitch off the ground. Hopefully I won't scrape no more. Go ahead and pull it out of here, and I'll get you all the video of the road tomorrow in the daylight. And it's the next day. The lift is on. About to take it up the driveway. Makes a huge difference for ground clearance. Gotta run into town real quick, so I'll just be heading out. But I used a scrape right there coming out. It's a lot nicer now being able to get down the road without having to worry about scraping. It's a little bit of rattling. Rides a bit like a Jeep, but that's the Jeep lift for you. It'll ride like a Jeep. But that's all I have for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoy. See y'all next time.